Heavily pregnant and shaken, Lacey Peterson is thanking her lucky stars. She'd just moved her car into the backyard of her Western home during last night's downpour when she got the fright of her life.
I just heard a big crack and all of a sudden the whole tree's just come crashing down on top of me, on top of the car.
As the clean-up begins, Lacey is left contemplating what might have been.
If I had went another foot forward, I wouldn't be standing here right now talking to you.
Strong winds and heavy rain battered the Hunter overnight. This tree crashed onto a home at Thornton. A teenage boy was sleeping in the room directly beneath. Wind gusts up to 90 kilometres an hour moved the beach onto the road along Newcastle's coastline this morning. Port Stephens has copped the heaviest rain and it's starting to show. Up to 330 millimetres has fallen over the last 48 hours. School children around Dungog scored an early mark, bussed home at midday as roads went underwater. And these residents along the Patterson and Williams rivers have a reason to look concerned. Water levels are rising rapidly and it'll be an anxious night for many, with major Hunter rivers expected to peak sometime later this evening or tomorrow morning. Kate Haberfield, NBN News.
Fire crews were still on the scene at Bolton Point more than 12 hours after the intense blaze ignited, keeping a close watch on the smouldering ruins of the two waterfront homes.
Very hard to get to, what with the structural stability, so got a lot of spot fires happening, so crews in place, keeping those in check.
The fire began somewhere inside this burnt-out property just after 11 p.m. and quickly spread to the neighbouring house. The flames fuelled by wind gusts of up to 90 kilometres an hour.
Fire crews were saying they were just chasing it. It was, extremely fast and strong winds.
While they were unable to save either property, firefighters did manage to protect a third home that came under threat. Crime scene investigators aren't expected to examine the scene until tomorrow because of today's wet weather. However, determining the exact cause of the blaze is expected to be particularly difficult because of the sheer extent of fire damage. In Cooks Hill, forensic police spent the morning examining the scene of an alleged arson attack at Parkway Avenue. 34-year-old Brian Keith Turner has been charged with setting fire to the Department of Housing property and stealing a computer. The Bar Beach man was refused bail at Newcastle Local Court. He's due to reappear in August. Madeline McKell, NBN News.
The Commonwealth should be looking after the local residents and looking after their needs and wants as well as the needs and wants of the nation.
Currently synonymous with black coal, the Hunter could become the Silicon Valley of sustainable energy. At least that's the dream of James McGregor from the CSIRO. He thinks the Hunter has the potential to be a world leader in sustainable energy options, thanks to our skilled workforce, research and technology innovations, and established trade links.
When we look at the Hunter and our immediate trading partners, basically who we export coal to, they're also the same economies that are going to need sustainable energy solutions for the future.
Today, he outlined 3 key technologies the CSIRO is working on, including carbon capture, solar thermal power and smart grids, and their benefits over burning coal.
When we start looking at the issues of climate change, I have a 6-month-old and a 3-year-old daughter at home, and I want them to be able to enjoy the same natural resources and natural phenomena that you and I get to enjoy today.
The Energy Powwow by 12 industry leaders also touched on wind and geothermal energy, and environment experts explored the future of generation and consumption.
So I think it's really important that we invest and we make these decisions now, not for this generation but for future generations.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
After the departure of Corey Patterson and more recently Bo Henry, Rick Stone's job hasn't been easy. Even the coach admits the side can't take any more hits.
No, we can't. We won't have any more boys leaving. Look, the main thing is the group's always been concentrated on this particular season. I know there's been a lot of speculation otherwise.
Enter Tyrone Roberts, an up-and-coming utility who's expected to fill the Bo Henry void until Jared Mullen returns. The 20-year-old has already proved a handful this year in limited game time.
I think he's shown plenty of times in the last few weeks he's more than confident to be able to do that. He's probably a bit unlucky to lose his spot when he did.
Let's hope his luck turns around against an ever-improving Penrith, boosted by the return of Origin star Luke Lewis. But he, along with Petro Civoniceva, will have to back up after Game 2, which suits Stone just fine.
Yeah, I'd like to think so, even playing field with Luke Lewis and Petro Civoniceva, both backing up after Origin, who'll probably play big minutes for both their teams.
Akila Iwate and Kurt Gilly will also have a 2-day turnaround before Saturday's clash. Kevin Messam, NBN News. To make the last table in poker is a bit like reaching a footy grand final, and if there's one person you don't want to face, it's Newcastle's Liz Boyson.
It's more than a hobby, it's a passion for me.
After taking out the Pink Ladies World Championship in Las Vegas last year, Liz took on New Zealand's best. They too underestimated her.
Bit dumb, a bit stupid, and be very quiet, and then boom.
She was inspired by Joe Hasham, who pocketed $7.5 million back in 2005. That effort has seen hundreds of fellow Aussies follow suit.
We see poker all over the world now, and we've been sending winners all through last year over to Las Vegas to play and New Zealand, and we're finding that the skill level of the players is starting to match that of the pros.
One of those is Ken Curry, who is preparing to defend his Newcastle title. It's worth $13,000 and this prestigious bracelet.
I've got a big red target on my head everywhere I go. Basically, everyone wants to take out a defending champion.
Still, the 28-year-old isn't afraid to put it all on the line. With focus and, of course, a bit of luck, Curry has so far pocketed more than $100,000.
Again, most of that's sort of been pumped back into poker as well. So, you win some, you lose some.
And in case you're wondering, he can't read minds.
It's very hard to look into someone's eyes and go, I know exactly what you have, but there's definitely nervous twitches and certain behavioural patterns that people display.
The main event of the Newcastle Championships gets underway on Saturday. Kevin Messam, NBN News.
Imagine driving into this on a dark, wet road at 100 k's an hour. That's just what happened to dozens of drivers on the New England Highway between Singleton and Muswellbrook early this morning.
Well, it was still dark and I was sort of following a truck and I didn't see the hole, and there was a massive pothole and he wrecked my two right-hand tyres, so it was pretty shocking.
Rock's new tyres cost him $250 and a couple of hours off work to buy and fit them. At least 17 cars had double blowouts in the worst stretch near Camberwell.
It's filled now, but that hole close to the centre line there was the main offender. It was about 20 centimetres deep and 1.5 metres long. And as you can see by the roadside, not many of the wheels, tyres and rims that hit it could survive.
Police say a combination of torrential rain and heavy traffic caused the problem.
The major damage has been caused by the extra traffic on the New England Highway going north due to closures on the Pacific Highway due to flooding.
By this afternoon, RTA crews had filled most of the holes. With the Upper Hunter being declared a natural disaster zone along with Port Stephens and Dungog, the state government will pick up the multi-million-dollar repair bill for damaged roads, taking the strain off local councils. But that's cold comfort for the drivers of these cars.
Well, I've got a bill in my wallet. I'm going to try and maybe send it to the Singleton Council, see what they have to say.
A lot of tow trucks are involved here with all-up lifts, getting their vehicles back, people running late for work, and also the tyre companies probably doing good business today.
The Roads and Traffic Authority today released its flyover model, tracing all 40 kilometres of the new roadway and showing its 6 interchanges.
It's a great tool because it gives people access to what something might look like. It's a bit hard sometimes in plan views to explain things.
The RTA expects that building the expressway's eastern section will be full of challenges. 840 metres worth of high bridges need to be constructed across several valleys in the Sugarloaf Ranges. The model shows exactly how they'll be built, starting with filling in old mine voids.
We build the bridge piers and we span the gap with a large truss, and we actually cast on site individual sections, and these sections are then put into position on either side of the pier, and you build the bridge out from that central pier.
Another standout feature, the series of bridges that need to be put in place around the F3 interchange.
It will be a unique piece of infrastructure when it's finished to see bridges and ramps operating at multiple levels, but the team's really proud of the design we've been able to come up with.
Construction is currently running on time and to budget. Madeline McKell, NBN News. Addressing Lake Macquarie's business sector, developer Keith Johnson outlined his 63 days of hell. He says a change in bank policy combined with state government red tape put his multi-million-dollar business in serious jeopardy. Today he spoke about the ongoing standoff between developers and the state government over funding infrastructure for new estates.
We're starting the negotiations now with the state government and it must get resolved. Otherwise the lower Hunter strategy can be thrown in the bin.
Lake Macquarie Mayor and local MP Greg Piper is sympathetic to Mr Johnson's position. He says he can't dismiss the concerns raised by developers as the global financial crisis showed there can be difficulties in developers being unable to fund requisite infrastructure. In the meantime, Johnson Property Group is moving forward with work about to begin on a 2,500 lot subdivision at Currambong.
We're in the final stages of securing finance for that now. We expect to have the bulldozers in there within 30 to 60 days.
While the company is looking for a joint venture partner to finish the Trinity Point Marina.
I believe that we will get through it. It's going to be a hard road to the end.
Madeline McKell, NBN News.
A long procession of clergymen joined hundreds of parishioners to welcome the region's new Catholic leader. The ordination was led by Cardinal George Pell, who delivered a homily about the future of the church, before conducting what's known as the laying of the hands. Then came Father William Wright's anointing. The pontifical ring was presented by outgoing Bishop Michael Malone. Finally, the new leader took the bishop's chair and was congratulated by his colleagues. Outside, a small group of protesters tried to bring attention to the plight of church sex abuse victims.
I'd love to see the new bishop to cooperate entirely with the police so that the police investigation could get back underway.
This morning, Bishop Wright spoke of the challenges ahead, including the abuse issue.
It is a matter again of getting to know the people and getting to know the local stories and trying to do the decent thing by everybody.
As for his ordination...
Bit surprised to wake up and think I'm the Bishop of Maitland Newcastle, but that's sinking in, and it was a great night last night and I'm in the afterglow.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News. It was January 2009 when drug and special operations squads raided a Mayfield home, discovering 30 firearms, explosives, stolen items including some belonging to the police, even rare exotic animals. The so-called treasure trove hidden in a secret room on the second floor.
When we look at jewellery that was seized and also items of equipment, electronic equipment, certainly it was best described as Aladdin's Cave.
Last year, Mayfield man Darren Taylor pleaded guilty to a number of offences, including possessing firearms, receiving stolen goods and dealing with the proceeds of crime. In sentencing the 40-year-old today, Judge Ralph Coulahan said he was satisfied beyond reasonable doubt there is no reasonable explanation for the possession of the firearms, adding he was satisfied to some degree of Taylor's remorse, but that he does distance himself from the serious nature of the offences. As the sentence was read out, Taylor looked back at his partner, who was crying and clearly very distressed. The father of 5 will spend at least 8.5 years behind bars, eligible for parole in May 2018. Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
Before kick-off, it was hard to separate Kurt Gidley and Akili Iwate, but even on his lonesome, Aku ripped in. Coming off the bench, Gidley quickly made an impact, almost setting up his Newcastle teammate down the sideline. It only got better. Gidley had a hand in the Blues' first 2 tries. It's that sort of flair Knights coach Rick Stone can't wait to get back.
Yeah, having a win, I think it definitely helps their mental state, and they come back with a little bit more spring in their step.
But as far as giving in to Ricky Stewart and letting them have time off ahead of Origin 3...
No, we can't afford to have Kurt and Aku not playing in our team at this point in time.
The pair is fit to return to the Knights this weekend when they host Penrith. The same can't be said for Panthers back rower Luke Lewis, who sustained a hamstring injury last night. But the Knights aren't preparing for anything, especially an in-form Petro Sivanasiva.
Yeah, definitely played well last night. Petro's a quality player, so, looking forward to the challenge.
Meanwhile, the club today re-signed Peter Matautai for 2 more seasons. The Raymond Terrace Jr. is best known for his try-scoring debut against the Roosters. Kevin Messam, NBN News. It's a routine Sarah Booth is fond of. For 15 years, she's conquered downhill tracks across the country, but this looks like her biggest challenge yet, Canada's Crankworks.
Yes, tracks World Cup riders from all over the world, and a lot of people from, like myself, that just want to give it a go. It's like the Mecca for mountain biking.
At 32, Sarah is currently leading the New South Wales series after a career spent enduring countless injuries.
Every year I keep improving my times, I keep having fun, I keep getting on the podium, and hell, if I can do it, why not?
Sarah says her day job working in the Australian Defence Force is exciting, but downhill mountain bike riding is, well, unique.
Well, there's no limits. How fast can you go on a mountain bike? How far can you jump? I mean, you push your own limits to wherever you want to go, and that's the greatest thing about it.
Next year, she hopes to take a new batch of up-and-comers to Canada.
Exposing them to tracks and different skill levels that are beyond, what you get at your local races.
Kevin Messam, NBN News.
Dungog's mayor is among those counting the cost, and with scenes like this being repeated across the Shire,
that's just not a patch job, that's a strip down and replace job.
the damage bill is quickly rising.
There's no doubt this is not going to be cheap.
In the order of $5 million worth of damage, but I mean, who knows? It's unlikely to go down, it's more likely to go up.
Just how much won't be known for a few days. There's still a lot of local infrastructure underwater.
If you're going off to walk across that one, who knows whether the deck's there or not.
The water, which was metres above my head, has eroded embankments across the Shire. This area alone will cost tens of thousands of dollars to repair.
There's hundreds of tonnes of soil got to be taken away, that bank's got to be stabilised.
Maitland's repair bill is unlikely to be quite as steep, but again, the extent of the damage is hard to gauge. The Hunter River came very close to bursting its banks, while many roads remain closed. The Upper Hunter is still being assessed, but with 3 bridges wiped out, the cost will surpass $1 million. Muswellbrook and Cessnock today joined Dungog and the Upper Hunter on the Natural Disaster Zone list.
People don't need to panic, they're not on their own. Government is there, volunteer groups are there to help you as well.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News. Confidential negotiations between BuildDev, which Nathan Tinkler is a major shareholder in, and the GPT Group to buy the David Jones buildings and land holdings at the southern side of Hunter Street Mall have collapsed. The deal was thought to be worth a cool $58 million, and if it went ahead, would have seen a new retail and entertainment complex built here. Late this afternoon, GPT Group issued a statement simply saying the exclusive due diligence position on GPT's Newcastle land sale has lapsed and that the party engaged in this position has decided not to proceed with the purchase. GPT will now restart talks with a variety of stakeholders to realise maximum value for shareholders. While BuildDev didn't return NBN's calls, but as one door closes, another could open. Today, Lord Mayor John Tate said he would contact local MP Tim Owen to see if the city and state could encourage GPT itself to come back on board. Meanwhile, a new, if temporary, use has been found for the old David Jones building. GPT has loaned the second floor to HMRI for the Medical Research Institute's annual ball tomorrow night. Preparations are well underway to transform the former department store, although this year's theme is being kept under wraps. Madeline McKell, NBN News.
Statewide Mutual has all but ordered Newcastle Council to cut down the Layman Street figs, and the Lord Mayor isn't happy about it.
The community very strongly have said we want to keep those trees. The council has resolved that the trees be kept and managed. So statewide need to come and understand that message from the elected council and then work out what can be done from there.
In a letter to Council, the insurer stated certain fig trees in Layman Street should be removed no later than by the 31st of August. If Council elects to retain the trees beyond that date, indemnity in respect to any claim will be denied from that date.
It could be regarded as an ultimatum. Now, one of the things that statewide might like to consider is the amount of insurance that Newcastle Council puts to them in totality, and see what their view would be about losing that.
Fig advocate Katie Rashke says the recent wet weather and gale force winds didn't impact on the trees, proving they are safe.
They're not going anywhere, they're not going to kill anyone, they're not going to fall over. I think the insurance company need to be a bit careful, and council managers need to do what they've been asked to do by elected councillors and the people, and that's look after these trees.
Madeline McKell, NBN News.
Following months of speculation, it's official. The New South Wales Open will no longer call the vintage in the Hunter Valley home.
In that 4 years, there was a whole lot of development went on there. So they had, distractions that probably they didn't need from our point of view.
Newcastle Golf Club is the new host. Officials say keeping the tournament in the Hunter was the priority.
Sydney is a hard market. You get lost in the wash a little bit.
Previous winners are backing the move.
I'm very happy that I'm still here at Newcastle Golf Club.
Especially 2008 winner Aaron Townsend. The event helped launch his international career.
It was my first win and it was so close to home, so it rates up there very highly.
He admits another title won't be easy, especially at Newcastle.
There's no water here and things like that, but I definitely think it is tougher. It's a lot more demanding off the tee.
It's also hoped the November 17 start date will help attract other high-profile players. After all, it'll enable those finished with the Australian Open to stop by Newcastle on their way to the PGA in Queensland.
There's high likelihood. There's other events on around the world, of course.
Kevin Messam, NBN News. The Jets' second phase of pre-season training doesn't officially end until next Friday, but some will get an early mark. Ali Abbas leaves tomorrow to rejoin the Iraq national team.
Score more goals there and show them what I have. So hopefully I will do that.
The side will take on Syria on June 29 in a friendly. It'll be Abbas's first game for his homeland since defecting to Australia in 2007.
If I lose that chance, I think I'm not going to get another chance. So it's really hard for me. So I have to do 100% there.
Kiwi Jeremy Brocky knows all about the highs and lows of representing your country. Today he spoke about that pass against the Socceroos.
I looked up and didn't have many options and sort of got a little bit nervous on the ball and decided to knock it back to the keeper. And while I admit it was a pretty bad pass, it did sit up nicely for him to smash away.
Meanwhile, in the NBN State League, a win over Broadmeadow this weekend will put Western just one shy of the competition leaders. Bears coach Darren Elkin is backing his men.
Every team's beatable. I think it comes down to the day. Teams that turn up to play, win their individual battles and get the job done on the park.
Kevin Messam, NBN News.
Despite devastating opinion polls, Julia Gillard was all smiles, her party's gloomy position seemingly forgotten in the sunshine, and the unveiling of the CSIRO's solar tower and mirrors.
All of this will be used in the near future to develop and test one of the world's most powerful solar air turbines to generate power from air and sunshine alone.
The Prime Minister was quick to use the event to push Labor's carbon tax, saying it would make projects like the Solar Thermal Research Facility more economical.
Pricing carbon is about getting those economic settings right.
But the launch was almost overshadowed by the PM's refusal to take questions. Madeline McKell, NBN News. The Soul Cafe was selling off its assets this morning as its time in Newcastle West draws to a close.
It is sad in a way, but we're really excited about the future of what's going to happen. I think it's very exciting that we're looking at securing our own building. It just gives us a stronger foundation.
Over the past 8 years, the cafe has been a haven for the homeless, providing around 250,000 free meals, as well as access to doctors and self-help groups. In 2 weeks, the charity will open new cafes at Carrington and Wallsend. Soul has also put a bid on the Mayfield Sport and Rec Club, but moving services away from the CBD wasn't something workers originally wanted to do.
We've spent 1 year looking for something in the inner city and couldn't find anything. We are excited about the moving to Mayfield because a lot of the guys that we work with are from that area.
Madeline McKell, NBN News.
Picturesque and sleepy, but Catherine Hill Bay got a wake-up call today. Skating came with the territory, but the real event was in the water.
This is the Fox Groms Shootout. It's a 3-day surfing festival for Groms.
And they just about came from everywhere for a look. Where have you come from? Tell us about that.
Farrell near Wollongong.
Are you excited to be here?
Yeah.
What do you like about this competition?
You get free stuff and you get to go surfing.
Getting seen here, important for the 150 selected to compete.
Yeah, it's a good idea. It's that, the kids get a good chance. They get to surf 3 times and, really boost their confidence.
17-year-old Josh Radford has already signed a sponsorship deal for the Pro Junior Tour.
Great feeling to see that happening at such a young age for me, so it's sick.
A very small few will make it, as you're probably aware. It is a hard road.
A road World Tour surfer Drew Courtney once travelled. Now a judge, his watchful eye will help find our next generation of stars.
I've done my time and it's great to come up here and watch the little guys and put back into surfing, so I'm stoked to be here.
The finals are on tomorrow.
The book business has seen better days. First Borders went bankrupt, then on Friday, News 40 Angus and Robertson stores will close.
It's very sad to see the book industry feeling the pinch of the economy and of course, e-books.
But according to the little guys, it's not all doom and gloom for the industry. They claim to not only be surviving, but thriving.
Well, certainly in the last couple of months or so, we've noticed it getting a lot busier.
Thanks in part to the failure of their chain store competitors.
Maybe made people realise that, if they don't support their local businesses, they may not be here in the future, sort of thing. So it's maybe been a wake-up call to everybody.
As for the ever-increasing threat from e-books and online shopping, retailers and customers agree there's nothing like the real deal.
You actually get to feel them yourself and have a look and decide whether you want to read them or not. And it's not like the internet where you don't get to make that choice.
People still love buying a book. They love the feel of a book when they go on a holiday and lay on the beach and, of course, curl up in bed. Everyone likes a good book to read.
You're never too young, it seems, to catch the reading bug. Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
We had a nice run, for most of the way. Still big water. Probably, some of the swells were 40, 50 feet.
In a debut to remember, 5'8" Ryan Stig had no trouble linking with his outside men. Wes Nagama preferred to do it all himself, but his chance was also cut down. Neville Costigan took matters into his own hands to go on and score the opener. The Knights looked just as potent without the ball. And while ill discipline plagued Penrith and the Knights, it was the visitors capitalising. Ryan Stig came so close to hitting back. So too Wes Nagama. But half chances don't win games, and the Panthers got a sniff, which provided a nervous finish for Rick Stone, but Kurt Gidley's kicking game put his mind at ease. Kevin Messam, NBN News.
A small bowling club tucked away in suburbia. Last night it became the unlikely target of a violent robbery.
Because it's such a big shock to everybody.
And it's just right across the street, I guess. That's kind of unnerving.
100 patrons, including children, were inside the club when two men burst in at around 7 o'clock. Both had their faces covered. One was armed with a rifle.
Staff were threatened, and a short time later a small amount of cash was stolen.
As they fled the club, shots were fired. One of the bullets hit Shortland grandfather Dick McHugh at close range in the abdomen.
A very decent chap gets.
Police say he'd done nothing to aggravate the gunman.
Very brazen, very cowardice too in the circumstances. And look, I can assure you that we'll leave no stone unturned.
A regular at the club, Mr McHugh underwent surgery at Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital, where he's in a stable condition. A number of other patrons were treated for shock.
Certainly people were disturbed by it.
The offenders fled the scene in a stolen Holden Commodore, which police later found here in Heaton Street, less than 1 kilometre from the club. Police believe 2 other men were inside the getaway car and are reviewing CCTV footage. They're asking anyone with information to contact Crime Stoppers. Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
It's the issue that just won't go away. The ongoing saga of the Newcastle rail line and whether to cut it. The indecision was blamed for the loss of $600 million worth of GPT investment in the CBD. And on Friday, plans from Nathan Tinkler and the BuildDev Group to buy GPT's David Jones building and other Hunter Street Mall assets also fell over. That deal alone was said to be worth $58 million and would have seen the development of a new retail and entertainment complex. The state government will be meeting with GPT this week to try to revive its original Newcastle plans. And during those talks, that contentious rail line issue is sure to come up again. But after decades of talk, for many, enough is enough.
Would you or I or the community go and invest money unless there was going to be major infrastructure changes? The answer to that question is no.
The rail line issue is bound to be front and centre at a public forum here next week, hosted by Barry O'Farrell and his front bench. And just as it was during the election campaign, locals and business leaders will be desperate for a firm decision.
They've been voted in quite clearly and strongly by the community of Newcastle who want to see change and they want to see something happen. Now's the chance they need to pick up and make sure they run with that ball and get the change implemented.
Kate Haberfield, NBN News.
Gabrielle Briggs is one of the University of Newcastle's bright young minds. With test tubes full of hope, she's aiming to answer a very big health question: what causes Parkinson's disease?
Currently, we don't know what causes it, and because we don't know what the cause is, we can't find a cure. So I'm trying to find out what's making the cells in our brain die when we get Parkinson's disease.
The third-year PhD biochemistry student is one of a group of researchers featured on a new website. Worldclasslocal.com is designed to raise the profile of their work.
It's flattering, actually, to know that I'm a world-class local. Very flattering, but I'm surrounded by world-class locals. So many people here doing great, important work.
The website highlights research across the areas of health, energy and the environment, and science and engineering. Gabrielle Briggs says it's a great opportunity.
Well, we're being exposed to the public who might not normally know what kind of work we do here.
The website also showcases the region and its attractions, with the community being invited to submit their own stories of world-class locals.
On the other end of this phone could be someone in need. The phone rings off the hook, with Newcastle and Hunter Lifeline answering as many as 11,000 calls each year. Now the 24-hour line has itself been given a lifeline, $2 million annual funding from the state government.
The research into suicide shows that, if someone can contact another person and have some conversation with them, it often does deter them from the thought that their pain can only be ended in suicide.
The money means the army of more than 100 volunteers and staff can continue their vital work, saving an untold amount of lives.
It's often at that terrible time in the morning, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, when people most need to talk to someone, and often they either don't have anyone to talk to, or they can't talk to their immediate family because they're part of their issues.
If you need to speak to a Lifeline counsellor, call 13 11 14.
Back in Australia and back to work. For Ben Jones, this Bulwarra property is where it all started.
It's bringing back a lot of memories, that for sure. I remember that broken rail there, that was from my head, I think, where we went through, so still haven't fixed it 10 years later.
The Mead family invited Jones into their home as a teenager. And it didn't take long for them to transform this kid from Seaham into one of the best bull riders we've ever had.
Always good to see him, and yeah, I'm proud of him.
In the US, Ben Jones is a household name, the world number 7, who's known just as much for staying on the worst beast as he is for celebrating.
Like, we go to a gas station or movies or whatever, and there's not 1 or 2 people, there's 10 people asking for your autograph and that sort of stuff. That's a cool feeling.
But his fan base isn't the only thing that's growing.
He's pretty good at riding.
With fame comes fortune. In 4 months, this knockabout will have the ride of his life. He's qualified for the world titles. The first prize, $1 million.
A lot of people back here, I think, wouldn't like to see me with $1 million, but I've changed my ways, and I'll tell you, would have a good life, that's for sure, after the sport of rodeo.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
We had to travel an hour just to get here, and then it said on time. We've been sitting here for half an hour. We go over and say, can we put the bags in? And they go, it's cancelled.
My recommendation is to keep up to date on the airline's website, call the airline specifically if there are questions and information that the passengers require.
This 87-year-old great-grandmother is the latest victim in a string of robberies targeting the elderly in Jesmond. Early this morning, at least 2 thieves broke into her home.
Looks like they've put the garbage there to get in, and they've got in and then they've gone inside and gone through all the drawers, thrown everything everywhere.
They even went into her bedroom while she was sleeping, stealing her handbag from next to her bed.
I should have felt them, you know, they're that close.
But the thieves didn't know their elderly victim had taken precautions before going to sleep.
Luckily, she got her purse out of her bag and threw it under her bed.
The 87-year-old is the third Jesmond-based victim in a spate of similar crimes. At 4 a.m. on Sunday, a 90-year-old man in nearby Fraser Street woke to find a thief raiding his bedroom drawers, while Maureen Cody was robbed by 2 boys in her apartment less than 2 weeks ago. Police are investigating whether the cases are linked.
They're the most vulnerable in our community, people that actually deserve to be respected and revered. And for people to be preying on them as they are, it does cause us significant concern. So much so that we've actually got criminal investigators making inquiries into the incidents.
Madeline McKell, NBN News.